Okay, so most e-commerce businesses are losing money by not having a high converting pop-up, and you shouldn't be one of them. So inside of this video, we are going to talk about the importance of having a high converting pop-up set up on your website, and we are going to walk through together how to design one if you don't have as much design chops or technical knowledge. We're going to first talk about why having a pop-up is important through something I like to call Popup Economics before we go into designing one together, or rather looking at a couple examples that are pretty good, a couple fundamentals that they have, and then designing one together. So let's talk about first what exactly is a pop-up. So for any e-commerce brand that you have ever engaged with in your life, they have 1000% shown you a pop-up, and that is an incentive by them giving you some form of discount, percentage off, additional feature or item for you to give them your email. Then if you give them your email or your phone number, they send you many communications, marketing communications with the hope to make you a first-time buyer, and not only a first-time buyer, a repeat buyer, so that they can increase your lifetime value as a customer to their business. So why on earth does this matter? Let's quickly do some pop-up economics. Let's say that we have a very average business, okay, that has 7,000 monthly visitors with an average order value of $50. And let's say that this pop-up is currently converting at a rate of 2%, which means that in every given month, there are 140 new people that will potentially buy our service or product. But we're not living in a dream world, so not everyone will convert. Let's say that 30% of these people will convert. That means that every new month we get 42 customers with an average order value producing $2,100 of recurring monthly revenue. Well, let's see what happens if we change nothing about our business, meaning that we don't do any additional marketing, we don't make our product better, we don't lower our production costs by doing anything with supply chain, we simply just optimize for a high converting pop-up. So let's say that this pop-up now starts converting at a percentage rate of 8%. Look what happens. At an 8% conversion rate, now 560 people now become potential customers. And let's say that the conversion stays the same, meaning nothing about our business improved, but we have now gone from $2,100 to $8,400 for changing one thing in our business. Then if we extrapolate this across 1 month or 1 year period, and we include no economies of scale. So once again, our business does not improve. Our business stays the same. Our employee capital stays the same, our product stays the same. Over the course of 1 year, for making your pop-up convert at a higher percentage, you have made close to $100,000 extra dollars. What would you do without $100,000 extra dollars? That's the importance of why you should have a high converting pop-up established on your website. So let's now go through a couple examples on how to make a high converting, or what are the elements of a high converting pop-up. What exactly makes a pop-up itself stand out? Well, across all the ones that are notable, they have a clean design with a clear offer, meaning you see this pop-up and you understand exactly what is being given to you as the consumer, and it's also pleasing to look at. Number two, most people are consuming content on their phone. Likely you've made a lot of purchases with your phone, Apple Pay, these kinds of things. It's mobile friendly and has a strong call to action, a strong urge to make the consumer take an action. As I mentioned, it has a fun design, meaning it's playful, it's interactive, it makes the process of exchanging our information not feel as sleazy. And usually they are trigger based, meaning not every single person is getting exposed to the offer, but through some form of targeting, they're being shown only to people who have the highest incentive of actually purchasing your product. So this here is the elements of a high converting pop-up. You could argue that many of these elements are actually non-essential. As I communicated earlier, it just needs to be clear, and the clarity is actually given in your offer. So as you can see in some of these examples, you have the offer front and center and an opportunity to claim it. What you're gonna see in some of these pop-ups is something called a double opt-in, which simply means that they opt in first, that they would like to receive the discount, and then exchange their information. Psychologically, they tend to convert better when they feel that they themselves wants to receive your product. So these are some very eye-catching examples that communicate the offer right front and center and make it very easy for the consumer to feel involved in the process. So some of these designs will be quite difficult to achieve in the Klaviyo native editor and require third-party applications, but the form that we are going to cover inside of this video is stupidly easy to replicate and stupidly effective, converting at the industry standard of 8 to 12%. So now let's go ahead and jump into Klaviyo and start designing this together. So as I mentioned, you don't need to be a design guru. You just need to follow a couple fundamental steps to start creating a high converting pop-up. So let's go ahead and create a form. We'll just call this a test form and we'll use our random list, but please configure this to be what you need for your business. If you need another video for that, we can talk about it later. Let's talk about the pop-up and let us start to create it together. So we are going to go with the double opt-in method, as I mentioned. So let's see the current one that exists there. We'll first go with targeting behavior. So we would like to show this based on rules. That's very important, which increases the incentive level of each of the customers. And we will like to show this not when a visitor is exiting the page, but after a time delay and if they've scrolled a certain amount of the page, which can be 60%. And when we edit this, we're going to edit first in mobile only and then in desktop only, so that we can show a different format of the pop-up to each individual device as it appears. So let's begin with mobile only. After we've done the configurations, we can go to start making the actual email itself. So as you can see, we don't really need any of these blocks, so we can just go ahead and delete them. For now, we'll keep the email and the submission block, but you really want this to be insanely simple. I'll say it again, you really want this to be insanely simple. You just want to communicate your offer, make sure that your branding is on point, and then go from there. So we're gonna do this for a test client that we have, and they are a apparel and anime inspired brand. So we're gonna go ahead and drop their logo inside. So you want to do that by going to select image, and then you can go ahead and drop the logo that you have. That's our first step. We're going to drop in the logo, and logo should be well and centered. We can make this probably 150 so that it appears a little bit bigger on the phone. And this image should have no action towards it. And then we'll go back and we will also add a text section. So this is where we want to communicate the offer. You would likely know about your brand's text and formatting, so please do make sure all of those elements are included when you are doing this, but you simply just want to state the offer. So we're going to say something very simple, such as you've got 10% off. That's it. Make that a little bit bigger, change it to the actual font of the brand. And if you have a font that's not in Klaviyo's native editor, then you can go ahead and add a font either through Google or Adobe, or you can import it yourself. So we're going to go ahead and search for this font. It's called the Bungee font. And then a fallback font is if that person's computer or device simply cannot load it up, then which font will be shown instead. And we can just go with something like Helvetica if it's an option. Helvetica. Okay. So here it's kind of taking shape. We want to center it. Then we want to make it a little bit bigger so that it appears as one of the very first things that they can see, or something that they can see pretty clearly if they're opening up on a mobile device. And it does look a little bit clunky, so we're going to go back and we're going to change the style. So as you can see here, we can edit the height of the pop-up. So we're going to put it at a height of 400, or you could probably even do 500 or 600, so it takes up the width of the actual device that it's being viewed on. And they have widths that are preset, so you can have a large width, a medium width, and a small width. For now, we're going to go with small width so that it can take up a greater amount of the page itself. And you can see that it's starting to take shape. So we have our brand. We also have our offer that you will be getting 10% off on your first purchase. So here's how we actually do the double opt-in. What we are going to do here is not request their email on the first block, okay? We're rather going to change this button to say, yes, I would like to claim 10% off. So, yep, claim 10% off. So this is asking them if they would like to opt into the offer first before actually getting the offer from us. Can use a like this, and you can pick the colors from the brand, from anything else. We already had some of the colors given out, so we're just gonna go down and prepared. So we have like that. So we'll go ahead and post that in exactly. Then we'll also change the fonts to match the font that we had uploaded in. Sorry about that. Bungee, and it looks like it takes shape. We'll give it a more round-ish kind of button, a little bit too. And then we will also add another button that gives the user an opportunity to close the form. So we actually don't want the X to be as visible so that they can click away, right? But we want them to consume the contents of the email itself, and then decide after seeing the offer if they would like to not participate. So we're gonna add another block, we'll add a button, and it will be a much simpler button with no fill. So we'll make it white background since our image is white, or you can simply just drop the opacity all the way. We'll change our text color to be a little bit grayer, so we'll go black, and then we will drop down the opacity a bit, and then we'll simply say no thanks, close form. Then to change up a little bit of the padding and the formatting that we can see here, we can either change the height of the button, so we can either make the height quite small, or if you go down here to button padding, we can change the padding from the other elements that are inside of the form. So as you can see, the distance between this block and this block increases if we manipulate the padding. And if I'm being honest with you, on mobile, this is about all you need. You just need to communicate the offer and then allow them to input their information so that you can start sending emails to them. Then what we're gonna do now is we need to go back together, and we are going to actually duplicate this, because as I showed you earlier, we are going to request first that they opt in to receive the incentive. So this is when they actually go in and submit their email, and make sure that this is attached to the right group if you go to the button here. So what the action will do is when you submit it, it will submit to the list that you select. So let's say that you want them to go to the preview list, you can put them in the preview list, and then show next step, which can either be success instead of closing the form. But we actually want them to first claim it. So let's delete this block of the email in the first one, and we are still gonna say the exact same thing. Do you want 10% off? And what we're actually gonna do is make another button. So we're gonna make another button, and this button we are going to say no thanks. And we're going to work with the same styles that we have done before, except this time we are going to make it a bit inverse. So the button itself will actually make it transparent. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to button border. So we're gonna give the button that orange border that we had selected already. And we are going to make it solid and at 1 pixel. So we saw earlier that we made the radius of this one 16, so we can make this one the same so that it has that consistent, oops, that's the pixels, so that it has that consistent shape to it. And the size is also different here. So we have 16 pixels, 54 pixels, or 54 pixels for the button itself, and this one is at 50. So let's do, oh, sorry, let's check this out. Oops. Let's go back here. So this button is currently 54 pixels, full width, and we are full width. That's the height. And what about the, so what's going on here? Make this Helvetica. Oh, thanks. We'll make the button text black. We'll actually make this also PNG. And I guess we'll add some padding then to the left and to the right to make it match. So let's do 20, 30. 30 is looking about right. Let's do 35. Let's do 32. And then we'll make the button height actually a bit smaller since we don't want them to say no thanks. So we'll make this about 30. And just like that, we have our incentive for them to purchase. So they will say you've got 10% off, and then we will say claim 10% off, or they can hit no thanks, and then they'll move on to the next step if they click this button, or if they hit no thanks, then they will close the form. So now we go on to the next portion. You can say you've got 10% off, or you can now say unlock 10% off, and then your first order. But we want your first order to be a bit smaller, so unlock 10% off. You can probably reduce that a bit. We now want it to be on the same line, so we can probably just go back to 46 then. So unlock 10% off your first order. So they will put their email in, then they'll actually claim the 10%. And what will happen is that the form will submit, and all of the values that are given, which is the email, will populate into the list that you have decided. And then we are going to go to the next step, which is the success page. And we are simply just going to actually offer them the discount. So let's add a block where we will put the coupon in. And you can make this a static coupon or a unique coupon. You can choose based on whatever you have set, but in your Shopify or in Klaviyo, you can make a coupon, and you can like say exactly what the coupon is. So let's say that the coupon is, if it's a static coupon, like write what it is, but if it's a unique coupon, you need to integrate this with your Klaviyo account. So let's just say for the time being, welcome 10. That will be the coupon, and you want to add the same elements as you did for the last time. You can probably use the same font structure. So thanks for subscribing, and then you want to give them an opportunity to start searching all of your products. So you're going to add another button, and you're going to follow the same styling as you did in the other ones, right? So you're going to use the same colors, you're going to use the same fonts again as well, but this time you're going to say shop all products. If you want this to be designed a bit more, you can once again also use some of those colors that you have prepared a bit earlier. So that the code, and you want to make sure that all of your branding stays consistent. So you're going to put another image up here, which will be your logo, which you already dropped in. So you can select that, and then you can resize it to be what you desire. Possibly you can get away with 200 actually. So let's see. 200 looks pretty good. And then, yeah, that should be enough for your. So the padding here doesn't look as good, so maybe we can change that. So block padding, let's put maybe 30. So it changes it a bit, 20. Yeah, so now it looks a little bit more flush, a little bit cleaner. So we could probably make this font size 20. Yeah, there you go. So you can play around with it to be how you like it, make it visually appealing, and then they can go to shop all products. And just like that, you have your first pop-up designed in Klaviyo that can be pretty high converting. So I'll explain once again. You have the email opt-in, communicating your offer, and then giving them a chance to accept it. Then you have where they actually give their email or their information, and then you have a success, allowing them to know that they have successfully been subscribed to the list, and they can use the code that has been generated for them. So we did all of that for mobile. Now let's go and do it for desktop, and the same fundamentals kind of follow. So we're going to go back to targeting behavior, and we are going to go to desktop. So many of the things should have carried over, but let's go and change some things with regard to desktop. With regard to desktop, you want to change the style up a little bit. So you can either have a left image or a right image, and all of the things that we did prior should carry over. So this is good. Put this as normal or even light. Put it as normal. So what we need now is just a catchy image, and you can do that for anything that you have within your brand assets. We'll get rid of this button here because we don't want them to quickly see the pop-up and click off once again, but we rather want them to consume all the content and then decide to click off. So we're gonna follow the same principles. Really, we don't need to change much about this. We just need to now find a great image. So you can find any image that your brand is working with. We downloaded some already, and we will just go ahead and upload that. And really, honestly, like, that's it. So as you can see, it's not too intrusive. It's not too like overly done. It just communicates the offer, allows them to decide whether they want it, and if they do, we'll move on to the next step, which will use the same image. And then once the form actually gets submitted, we can change the image to be something different, and we can just upload another accolade image. And that's it. So once you're done, you can take a quick look through, and then you can publish it, and your form should be live. So that was the tutorial regarding how to, or the importance of why you should have a high performing pop-up set up on your website. If you are looking to do it yourself, just follow the template. If you are needing someone to do it for you, give us a reach down in the comments, and we'll make sure we can set this all for you. But that's it.